I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life and UK Test Part 100, the American War of Independence while doing restraining. And if you participate in restraining, it is at your own risk. I just said something about that many slaves lived in America since centuries or since a long time with whole families in some areas, and that we could not just go back to Africa because we were living there for many centuries with our families and we were rooted there as their home country. Now, and while I was thinking about it, I made a little discovery. I already knew that the next part is more about the American Revolution, but that we're talking now the American War of Independence, and now I noticed it. That is the 1776 one, because here are some things important. We had something said about 1833, the slaves were freed. In America, the slavery lasted until 1865. These are 32 years longer. The United States are not part of Britain in the year 1833. That is the American War of Independence, which was in 1776. But we will look what we have written here because that will have a great influence on what is written here about freeing the slaves in the British Empire. In 1833, the United States were no longer part of the British Empire. That explains it. The Navy stopped slave ships from other countries, freed the slaves and punished the slave traders. I don't know enough about it, but the slavery in the United States lasted 32 years longer. Did they stop American slave trading ships? The slave trading came to an end around that time. Did the expansion and prosperity of Britain was the expansion and prosperity of the British Empire still sustained in part by not the slave trade, but by the slave. Yes, they are writing about the slave trading industry dominated by Britain and American colonies, but was the still sustained by the work done by slaves, for example in the United States until 1865. We should think we are going very fast through all of it, and to understand all we have to connect these things. So they are telling us here that the slave trading was a part of. These are two long sentences. The commercial expansion and prosperity. This is how we're starting this article. Did I say it? This is the American War of Independence. Yes. So we're starting the section with slave trade. We're talking about this commercial expansion and prosperity, and they are talking about the Industrial Revolution technically, or are they rather talking about a global power? We don't have it written all at one place together, the same as with Ireland. So we have to connect the dots. So we're talking about this commercial expansion and prosperity. Commercial expansion. Yes, it's also the start more trading with other countries. Was sustained in part by the booming slave trade. The slave trade was the pillar of the slavery, or it was the foundation of slavery. It was what made it possible. But it happened on after the slave trading because the people were held in slavery and also their children became slaves for lifelong, and also their children, and on and on and on. So the commercial expansion and prosperity was sustained in part by the booming slave trade. In 1833, it was abolished in the British Empire. The United States of America are not part of the British Empire in the year 1833. They stopped slave ships from other countries. Did they stop trading with the United States in 1833? I'm pretty sure not. So if you connect now all the dots, we can think that the British trading and the British commercial expansion and prosperity was even after 1833, which abolished the slavery, like a little loophole, continued based on slavery as it did before, that slavery inside of Britain is illegal, but outside of Britain, British ships are under horrible conditions and terrible conditions transporting slaves. The American War of Independence, that is pretty independent from what we just talked about. By the 1760s, we are now making a jump 16 years earlier to what we were just talking about. By the 1760s, there were substantial British colonies in North America. We know that during the Elizabethan period, many people from Ireland went to, and also from England and from Scotland, to the Americas, to North America. This was a time when many people left Britain and Ireland to settle in new colonies in America and elsewhere. So many people left Britain and Ireland to settle in new colonies. That was around 1500. That was when many people left, but also people came in. For example, the Jews for the first time in 1656 settled again in London. They don't tell us why they weren't settling before. They don't tell us why. I know why. So between 1618 and 1720, also the Huguenots came from France. They were there persecuted, the Huguenots. And during Elizabeth's time, this colonization saw no during Elizabeth's time, 1500, particularly by people who disagreed with the religious views of the next two kings, greatly increased in the next century. So there were many people already coming. By the 1760s, there were substantial British colonies in North America. So in North America, we are also talking probably of today's Canada. There were substantial British colonies in North America. The colonies were wealthy and largely in control of their own affairs. So that means they were mostly governing themselves. Many of the colonists' families had originally gone to North America in order to have religious freedom. It is very complex, we have to go through that in more detail. We are doing now restraining. And we will do mostly restraining, we're already halfway in. So we are having the arms next to us with strong fist. No, not with strong fist, just the hands front the fist. And we're bringing the hands down and up. And again down. And up. And this was the last time. And now after the spotlight exercise, the flashlight exercise. Same setup, but we're bringing fists to the insides and to the outsides. And the last round, to the outsides and to the insides. And now the T-Rex in the morning, hands out, and we bring the hands down and up. And down. And again up. And we're doing now the T-Rex in the gym. If you don't have a tennis ball, just do it. Just, you're pressing now onto the tennis ball, just make a strong fist. And we're releasing again. And we are pressing again onto the tennis ball. And we're releasing, and we're pressing another time. Now we're switching, and we're pressing on the other side onto the tennis ball. And we're releasing, and we are pressing again. And we're releasing, and we're pressing a third and final time. And we will go directly on with the next exercises. We will do them now also. The cautious big bang. We're placing the fingertips of one hand on top of the fingernails of the other hand. We're pressing a bit, and now we're opening and closing. Opening again and closing. And we're switching. We're opening again and closing. And now we're doing the frog testing the water temperature, hands next to us, and we're bringing the hands with flat fingers down and up with strong fists into extension. And down into flexion with flat fingers and down with extension, a strong fist. And again down, flat fingers and up, strong fists. And the last exercise, the rocket booster. We're having long arms now bent into the elbow, we're making strong fists, and we're bringing these fists to the inside, again into flexion. And now to the outsides into extension, again with flat fingers. And now to the insides with flexion. And to the outsides, flat fingers. And the last one to the insides, strong fists. And to the outside, the flat fingers. And now, a bit of relaxation for extension to the toe muscle, and we're going down over the middle part of the lower arm, with moderate pressure. Last time, now on the other side. And we're done with the wrist training. We're having 4 minutes left. So the first thing, I know that in Brasilia and in some other countries, slavery lasted even longer than in the United States of America. And it is possible that I heard something about that there was pressure made by Great Britain that we are not trading with these countries if they're using slavery. And these are political and economically things. So it is not hard to think that it, as it took from 1807 until 1833, from the banning of slave ships to the emancipation of slaves, but it there took, these are 26 years, but it then also took some years to make other things. These are economical and political processes. So it can't be really expected that it all happened at the same time. And here's nothing written to it, and I don't know that much about it. I'm actually pretty sure that there were at least some people in different times pushing for not to trade with countries who do slavery. So we don't know much about it. We're putting it a bit apart and assuming the best in people. So by the 1760s, there were substantial British colonies in North America. The colonies were wealthy and largely in control of their own affairs. Many of the colonist families, what are colonist families? Had originally gone to North America in order to have religious freedom. Oh, that is what I mean. I thought something like the clans in Scotland. Many of the colonist families had originally gone to North America in order to have religious freedom. Yet here, during the next 2 kings after Elizabeth I, we have to get that really straight. So it was 1603 that Elizabeth I died. And it was when James VI and when Charles I who followed. It was James VI after Elizabeth I. The son of Mary Stuart, it was James VI. So during him and also Charles I, many as whole families went over to the colonies hoping for religious freedom in order to have religious freedom. They were well educated and interested in ideas of liberty. So they had studied good books and they were interested in ideas of liberty. The British government wanted to tax the colonies. So they wanted taxes on what is done in the colonies, in economics. The colonists saw this as an attack on their freedom and said there should be no taxation without representation in the British Parliament. We get no explanation for it, then I'm going with mine. I guess that means that there were no politicians from the colonies in North America in the British Parliament. And they said, because we don't have politicians in the British Parliament, we're also not paying taxes to Britain or Parliament in Britain. They were well educated and interested in ideas of liberty. The British government wanted to tax the colonies. The colonists saw this as an attack on their freedom and said there should be no taxation without representation in the British Parliament. Parliament tried to compromise by repealing some of the taxes, but relations between the British government and colonies continued to worsen. We will continue there in the next part of the American War of Independence. This is the end of part 100 for Learning Life in UK Test. So thank you very much, and until next time.